does only have 2 losses to Valdez and Shakur Stevenson, and he is Olympian, meaning that he knows how to box, he knows how to survive. But does he have the skill set to beat Foster in 12 rounds? I don't think so. I'm putting it all in on O'Shaquie. I think we're going to hear and new 2-time world champion at 130 pounds. And I want to hear your opinion. You don't always have to agree with me. I appreciate it if you don't. But if you take Conceicao, I do want to know how you think he's going to win, why you think I'm wrong. Leave all that in the comment section below. What's up, fight fans? Welcome to my channel. This is Johnny, and in today's video, we're going to be going over the statistics that nobody talks about when mentioning last night's title fight at 130 pounds, the rematch between O'Shaquie Foster and Robson Conceicao. Guys, before we continue, I want to say thank you to everybody who's been with me since day one. Thank you to all the new subscribers. And you guys, if you haven't yet, could you please hit the notification and subscribe button? What this will allow me to do, if you like the boxing content that I create, when I put something out that's new, you'll be the first to be notified. Thank you. All right, guys, for this video, we're gonna do something different to get started. Generally, I'll go over the stats, which we will at the end. We'll go over the power shots. We'll talk about those scorecards and talk about how O'Shaquie Foster got his belt back. But to begin, we're gonna watch these highlights together, and we're gonna go over a couple minutes of what happened rounds 1 through 12 and talk a little bit about, in real time, what each fighter was doing. Here we go. All right, guys, from the start of the fight, we got to see an equally as aggressive Conceicao as he was in fight 1. Something that I liked about Foster throughout this entire fight, unlike fight 1 when he would exit all the way out of the pocket and then have to re-engage. Now, in this fight, Foster, during his exits, he wouldn't leave the pocket. He would sit there to counter. I loved what he was doing with his right guard. He was always defensively responsible, even in the danger zone from Conceicao's power. Simply by putting his right hand up, he would catch and counter. It's one of these day 2 boxing drills that I do with my boxing clients. He wobbles Conceicao here in the 5th round. The announcer says they weren't sure it was a wobble. It was definitely a wobble. And when I look at how some of these rounds were scored mid-rounds to later in the fight, I feel the difference was Foster's defensive acumen, not necessarily his feet and footwork like fight 1, but like I said, his high guard. What Foster was doing different than Conceicao is Conceicao was leaving his hands down lower, getting hit by cleaner shots. Not to say that he was landing less, it's just that when Foster would land, Conceicao's hands would be down at times. And when Conceicao would land, he was catching Foster on the guard, especially that right side, and then it would allow Foster to counter. With a minute left in the 10th round, we're watching Foster now put the pressure on Conceicao. Wobbles him again in the 10th with about a minute left. This is the 2nd time in the fight. Conceicao's tough as nails. We talked about last week in my fight prediction video. Conceicao was an Olympian, a world champion. He knows how to survive. Now, in the 11th round, we're looking at an exchange. The more exciting thing about this fight, a lot of the fight was spent in the strike zone, and this was a great adjustment that Foster did indifferent to the first fight. We already talked about it. He exited way less, stayed in the pocket way more, and even as the fight goes into the 12th round, guys, if you've ever boxed or sparred, you know as you get tired, it's tough to stay defensively responsible. You get fatigued and your guard drops. And this is here we're hearing the verdict of the fight. $115, $113. You know when Foster heard that first scorecard, he's like, oh shit. Here it is, split. Talk about redemption. The get back for Foster becomes a 2-time world champion at 130 pounds. Let's take a look at the total stats now. Let's see the story, the narrative of the fight. We'll look at the total jabs thrown, the percentages landed, power shots thrown landed, and also the total punches and the percentages of those landed. Guys, just like the first fight, this fight, in my opinion, was actually a bit closer The scorecards didn't say it. The first fight, like I said, I had Foster winning 10-2. This fight was a lot closer. This was a split decision. Conceicao made some adjustments. I like the adjustments Foster made defensively as well as offensively regarding his counter tactics. Let's look at the total jabs thrown and the percentages. Guys, throughout the fight, Conceicao throws 268 jabs, lands 59, versus Foster's 231, landing 52. They both landed at a 22% clip, so both guys were accurate enough in the jab range and in the strike zone range. The fight took place in a different space this fight. The range wasn't on the outside. It wasn't like Conceicao was chasing Foster the entire time and couldn't cut him off. This time Foster said, hey, look, I'm gonna stand right here. Let's see whose guard is better. Let's see whose skill set is better. And let's see who can make the proper adjustments throughout the fight. And if you look at the total 12 rounds, Foster wobbled Conceicao more than Conceicao wobbled Foster, and the jabs were used specifically to try to open up the power shots in range in the strike zone. And I think the difference was Foster's defensive acumen. I brought it up earlier in the video. His hands dropped way less, and I love what Foster does. He waits for you to throw, catch and counter, boom, fire back, boom, with the counter. Now let's take a closer look at the total power shots thrown and landed. Guys, throughout the fight, Conceicao throws 297 power shots, landing 94 at a 32% clip. Foster throws 303, landing 120 at a 40% clip. So just like the jabs, the total power shots and total power shots landed were kind of similar. It's just that the difference was 22% jabs landed at each for both fighters. With the power shots, Foster landed more power shots. He was more accurate, 10% more accurate than Conceicao. And I think this might have surprised a lot of people. This might have surprised Conceicao. He said after that first fight, Foster couldn't hurt him. And we knew this wasn't the case. Power doesn't always mean the strongest puncher. Power sometimes means the more accurate puncher, who's more precise, who's more skilled. And going into this rematch, that's why I took Foster. I felt like his adjustments would be more on the tactical end, and his punch angles and his punch landing were gonna obviously still be there regarding percentages, and this was the case. Now let's take a closer look at the total punches thrown versus landed. Guys, of the entire fight, Conceicao throws 565, landing 153 at a 27% clip, versus Foster's 534, landing 172 at a 32% clip. So once again, the overall story of this fight, the jabs cancel each other out, but when you look at the power shots landed and the total punches landed, Foster landed more at a higher percentage, more skilled, more accurate. You can't be upset with this decision. It was a lot closer than the first fight, but I still had Foster winning. I had it 8-4. Judges saw it 7-5. Whatever way you saw it, one of the judges gave it to Conceicao. It was a split decision, and new two-time world champion Oshaki Foster. These are divisions, 130 pounds. We're not expecting every fight to end in knockout. So the more you learn boxing, the more you watch fights, you'll start learning the nuances, the idiosyncrasies of how these fights are being scored. And guys, the judges don't always get it right, but sometimes they don't always get it wrong. I think you have to look at things like footwork, space, percentages, defense, tactics, adjustments throughout an entire fight when we're scoring it. And I think moving forward, maybe these are some of the standards that the fans, while watching, will get to see in real time. But all in all, we have a new champion at 130 pounds. I'm gonna leave this up to you. What should Foster do next? He said right after the fight, he does not wanna give Conceicao another fight. He wants something new. Do you agree with this decision? Who did you have winning the fight? And we are on a hot streak. I think this is the 5th big fight in a row that I predicted right. All right, guys, in the comment section below, who does Foster fight next? And do you agree with the decision?